Welcome back, my awesome people. In today's episode, I'll be talking with comedic sensation Kevin, aka Kevin Bread and Water, and as a native Californian who is from Los Angeles, what he thinks about California's policies and the upcoming United States election and whether or not Trump's presidency will be good for America if elected, and what that would mean for him as a Latino. Kevin is a Latino comic born and raised in Los Angeles. Kevin started doing stand-up as a joke, but eventually started taking the jokes seriously. He is known for his nonchalant, dry humor, and Kevin prefers to tell a story rather than just punchliners and one-liners. Kevin has performed all over Los Angeles and the United States. He has performed at places like the Hollywood Comedy Store, the Ice House, the Haha Cafe, Flappers, and the Laugh Factory. Kevin has also won the Aces Comedy Competition and the Haha Cafe's Next Comic Standing. So get into this episode with me. Hey, welcome back, my awesome people. So I am back again with Kevin. You remember him, the comedian from the Laugh Factory? I interviewed him a couple of months ago. Great interview. Well, we have him back again. And this time around, we're not just talking about comedy and how to become a comedian, but we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about the upcoming US elections. We're going to talk about both sides, Trump and Harris. We're going to talk about what's currently happening. Remember, I'm Canadian. I can't vote. So I'm just going to be asking the questions, learning as much as I can. Kevin lives in California. You know, currently it's the battleground state because Democrats have always had California on the stronghold, and now it could flip. Who knows? But Kevin is the expert. So, Kevin, before we get right into it, tell us more about what you've been up to since you've been on this channel. Maybe give us a little background for new viewers, people who haven't seen the previous interview.
Well, I've been incredibly busy with a newborn child that we just had, me and my wife, happily married, 2 kids, but we just brought another one into this world. And, you know, yeah, he keeps you busy. So that's what I've been mostly dealing with, a newborn child crying every 2 hours. So
I can
and
imagine.
Jacob, I know I know you're Canadian, but you could just, cross the border and put in your boat. It's that easy.
I'll take one for the team.
Yeah.
So let's just get right into it. So obviously, in the past couple of months, we've had some crazy things happen to Donald Trump, the Republican leader. Multiple assassination attempts. Many people have said that they're not behind it. Some others said that they might be behind it. Just from your personal experience, what do you think about the assassination attempts on Trump, and what is going on? What's the rumors back there that you in America?
Do you know what? It's funny because you don't really hear much about it. Like nobody's asking who did it. Like it kind of just left the mainstream media. Um, from my own personal opinion, I think it's probably the same people that killed Kennedy. It's the same behind the scenes players that are manipulating these young, impressionable minds to doing some crazy stuff like what that one guy did. I mean, obviously he wasn't a very good shooter because he missed and it wasn't even like a long distance. But the fact that he had like multiple phones and the fact that they haven't been able to those phones, it's like they cracked the January 6th people's phones like almost instantly. And this guy tried to assassinate a living presidential candidate, and you can't get into his phone. Like, are you
It,
are you serious? Like,
it
what?
it's it's kind of like favoritism, right? It's like, well, we'll go after this group because, we hate this group,
Yeah,
and we're gonna kind of be a little bit slower on this one because we're just trying to dig a little
because
bit more
we
deeper.
or we did it ourselves. I'm not gonna. They're not gonna investigate themselves, are they? I don't know.
Well, as they say, right, the deep state is pretty deep in there. So you can't really say exactly who it is, but you can definitely say that there are organizations out there.
There's
Of course.
there's shady organizations out there that are in the shadows that we don't hear much about. Obviously, Trump is very popular. Um, and there's really no way to stop him. Like how do you stop Trump?
And just right to my next point with that, how do we stop Trump, right? Like Kamala Harris has been the vice president for the past 4 years, pretty much at the end
Has
of
she?
this term.
Has she
Um,
been? I don't know.
I mean,
I
I
didn't.
personally, we don't have vice presidents, so I don't even know what they do
Good. You
really.
shouldn't. It's
Um,
like pointless.
So with her experience as a VP for the past 4 years, do you think that she has anything kind of going for her that will defeat Trump or will stop Trump?
I mean, look, I've watched the long form interviews that she has given, and it's like you read the comments, and the comments are all negative. You know, she did a podcast recently, a basketball podcast, with Matt Barnes, and you read the comments, and they're hilarious because they're all against her. Like you have to dig deep to find a pro Kamala, and this is a mostly like basketball podcast. You know, it's mostly like black people that
With more colored
are
people, yeah.
yeah, people of color. You know, so that to me is like fascinating to see. She doesn't connect with anybody, you know, and I watch these interviews with an open mind to see, like, let me see what she says about if something she says resonates. But all she says is Trump, 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 Trump. You know, it's like, what do you have nothing to offer besides I'm a woman of color and I'm not Trump.
And you
Oh,
know, one thing
congrats.
that I've also realized is you'll never see them actually discuss Trump's policies. They're always attacking the person, but never the policy. So I kind of that kind of makes you think maybe the policies are pretty good because a lot of policies that she never had, she is now kind of going for, similarly to what Trump has already done. Because I'm sure you've seen the debates. Very similar, I would say, platform, but right now it's just an attacking phase just from what we see. Remember, our mainstream media is totally different from what we see in the United States,
Yeah,
depending
yeah.
on what we watch. But if we were to look at, for example, Kamala's edge to winning. I know a few years ago we had the whole mail-in voting, no ID required, big controversy. And is that still going on, or what is actually happening on the ground floor?
I know in California, it's like I think Gavin Newsom made it even illegal to even ask for like an ID because
Oh, wow.
it's like offensive or whatever. But I don't know how it is outside of California, but apparently in California, you really just need to like show up, you know, or you could just fill out one of those ballots that get sent, you know. And regardless of how you feel about like being like a Kamala or Trump or whatever, like just the fact that there's ballots being sent to every single household, some of them don't even get filled out. Like it's just so ripe for fraud. Like it's not even like a conspiracy to think that like there's all these ballots being printed that are everywhere, you know, could be on the floor and
I
what like
agree.
and
Like,
who's double checking? Who's making sure these are you know what I'm saying? Like it's just so ripe for fraud, and it doesn't matter where you stand. It's like you just need to have a little bit of common sense and be like, oh, okay, this is you know, if you want to vote, like, how about you extend the in-person voting to like from Friday to like Tuesday, right? And give people 4 days to
enough
show up with the
time.
ballot. Because the people that actually look into this stuff and care will take the time out of their day to go and fucking vote, you know?
And they usually get a day off from work, usually, most people.
Not
Or like
here.
not the full day, but maybe like an hour or two just to go and
Yeah.
vote at their
Yeah. So,
local voting polls.
so instead of sending people and killing the environment by printing out like killing millions of trees and printing out these paper ballots where we can, you know, like
I think
instead
it's
of doing
just
that,
I think it's just as you said, right? It's very ripe for corruption and scamming because I was actually listening to PBD podcast the other day, Patrick but David, shout out to them. And they said the exact same thing. When you're handing out ballots, guess what's happening? You're sending maybe two or three to a household that probably only has one person living there. So that
yeah,
person can vote three times.
yeah.
And I mean, who's really checking, as you said, right? And here in Canada, however, you actually have to not only register, but you actually have to show up with your driver's license or a passport. So we actually have voter ID requirements. So I guess in California, you just kind of show. Okay, so can you do it multiple times, or you just go to different booths, or is that a thing?
To be honest with you, I don't know exactly how it works. This is what I was reading that Gavin Newsom,
But of
you
course,
know,
this comes down to, things like big tech and foreign interference, influencing the
yeah,
the
yeah.
the not only the voters, but also just the voting system. Like I'm not sure if you've seen, but Facebook has kind of like Mark Zuckerberg has had a whole total makeover, and he's not. as liberal as he was in the previous election.
Yeah,
So
because he saw what was happening. He
yeah,
kind of like woke up to it. Because COVID, I think, was a big eye eye opener for a lot of people. And this is what I would hope that my liberal friends would like wake up to and like make kind of have like an epiphany, like Mark Zuckerberg, like, hey, you know what? We're kind of we've kind of been lied to this whole time. Like you don't even have to like be like pro Trump. You kind of just have to be like, oh, like a lot of this stuff doesn't make any sense.
it's not as propagated as it used to be. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember during the last one, propaganda was at an all-time high. It was Russian collusion, this, it was this and this. Now you don't really see as much propaganda because a lot of the big tech, especially in Silicon Valley, have kind of, I would say, broken up, especially with Elon Musk buying Twitter as well,
Yeah.
now becoming X. But I would say a lot of censorship has kind of not went away, but just not as rampant.
And you know what? I'm never gonna understand the hate that people have for somebody like Elon Musk who made, you know, electric cars, popular, one good for the environment. He bought Twitter. He opened the algorithm so everybody could see, if it's being messed with, you can see that it's being messed with.
Exactly.
How is that like, how is that bad for like the human population?
He's trying to
Like it,
advance humanity, I would say, and regardless of whatever agenda he has, I personally think it's a positive one. But of course, he's got to be a little selfish if he needs to be. But I mean, at the end of the day, he is progressing humanity, and I know recently he obviously endorsed Trump and is all backing him 100%.
yeah,
But if you look at the other side, who's backing them? You see celebrities, rappers,
Usher.
entertainers, right? You're not looking, you're not being endorsed by the future, right? Like Elon Musk, I think in my opinion is going to be someone we're going to look back in 50 years and say, wow, that person really,
Think about
elevated
this.
humanity,
Think about how much SpaceX has done in the past 20 years compared to 80 years of taxpayer funded NASA.
right?
You
I
know,
know.
like just think
It's
about that.
it's why, in my personal opinion, I think private industries will always, forego government contracts and government agencies because it's all not money laundering, but it's just money misappropriating. You're sending money here, you're spending it on this. Nobody
And
really has
nobody's
any
checking.
accountability. Yeah, there's no accountability.
Yeah,
And
no accountability.
and so now that you see America changing, right? I think in the past few years, we've literally seen it change depending on just demographically of who is voting for who. In the previous election, you see a lot of colored people. 100% we're going for, of course, Obama. We're going for Biden. We're sticking to the Democrat Party. But now you see this big change happening where more colored people are actually going for a Republican leader. Like I saw the last statistic, I believe it was actually in California. I think there's a Senate election going on with Schiff and Gray, I believe.
Oh yeah.
These two candidates, and I think a few years ago, the colored statistic was, I think, between blacks and Latinos was about 19-20%. Now it's at 57% for Republican. So there
Yeah.
is a major shift happening. And why do you think is that? Because I don't think colored people are fighting one another one now. I think there's more unity, I would say, going against certain agendas, or I could be totally wrong.
No,
Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think you're right. Like colored people uniting to hate, like to not hate, hate is a strong word, but to for dislike of the of liberal policies that we have seen destroy our own communities. Because me as a Latino, like we grew up like, oh, you always vote Democrat. You don't question it. You just always vote Democrat. Like if you even try to like go in a different path, it's like, oh, you're going against your race, or oh, you're trying to be white. This is the stuff that you hear a lot about. So what you're telling me is that as a Latino, I have no choice. I don't have a choice.
You're kind of
My only
thrown into
choice,
a box.
yeah, I'm a Latino, so I'm always supposed to vote Democrat. So my vote is like it belongs to them, because I'm Latino, right? This is what a lot of, but when you start looking at the other side, you start seeing that like, and it's not even the Republican Party itself. It might be even just the values of conservative values, which is
Yeah.
family and religion. which a lot of Latinos are all about family, all about religion, all about working. We don't want to be taxed. Liberal policies keep us poor by taxing the crap out of us. And for what? All these policies hurt the poor, hurt us. These liberal policies
It
are hurting
does.
us. And people don't see it that way because some Republican in Montana said something racist. You know, so some Republican in some stupid state said something racist. So now, oh, they hate all Latinos. So hey, but the Democrats, they like you. You always vote for them. It doesn't make any sense for me.
Once you put labels on people, it's easier to convince others that you're right. So I think that's what it really is. You can call someone racist, you can call someone this and this and
Yeah.
this, and you'll get more people saying, really? They're racist? And without even asking any
And it's
context behind it, they'll just
it's an
agree with that
emotional
person.
response too. You know, it's an emotional response because oh,
Emotional,
that
exactly.
is racist against your people. It's like, oh, what? Like, why? Like, it has nothing to do with my character, just by the tone of my skin. But then all the liberal policies have nothing to do with person's character, but just their skin color. And to me,
Exactly.
I never saw myself as like a victim of like my culture or like my color. I never saw myself that way.
And you shouldn't, because if you think about it, we could be victims anywhere in the world. We can also be successful in any part of the world. It all depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the person.
As you know, like in Canada here, we are taxed very highly. We have very, very, I would say socialistic policies, and you can still be successful and you can also still be a failure. Same with the
Yeah,
United States. It's the United States is the land of the free, low taxes and bootstrap yourself and you can make it on your own kind of mentality and you can get it both ways. You can be successful or a failure. And so
yeah,
as a male Latino, looking at because I know this is something that we also talked about in our last interview. Immigration was one of the biggest policies currently happening in the United States with the Mexico border. Of course,
yeah,
nobody's jumping the Canadian border. Who knows, maybe eventually. But for now, the Mexican border is the biggest issue because I was watching some videos even just a few months ago, a few weeks ago, and it's not only
yeah.
Mexicans coming across. I've seen blacks, I've seen Middle Eastern people, I've seen Asian people,
Oh,
I've seen
yeah,
a whole bunch of different races. So what is going on at the border? Because remember, we get one side from what we see here, and I'm sure
yeah.
you guys get something different. So what is actually going on?
Uh, what I see happening is a big free for all. Everybody can come in, doesn't matter who you are. There's no vetting. It's just open. Imagine you like bought a ticket for Disneyland, right? You bought a ticket for Disneyland. You pay like $300 for it, and you
Yeah.
show up to Disneyland, and you're about to give your ticket to go inside, and then you see that there's nobody taking the tickets, and everybody's just walking in all willy nilly. There's no structure. People are walking, they don't even have tickets, they just walked in. So you're like, why did I even buy a ticket to Disneyland if there's no, you know?
That is actually such a good analogy.
And that's what's happening right now. Everybody's just coming in. That's not good for my family, because we live here. Crime goes up, and then isn't that like the people that live in the hills that have their Kamala Waltz fucking lawn signs? They're not the ones affected by this. Like it's the poor people that live in the poor neighborhoods that get affected by this
Because they're moving to that area.
because they're moving to those areas. So all these people in the hills, they don't see that stuff. It's always the poor people, it's always the minorities. We're the ones that suffer the brunt of liberal policies that I guess mean well. There's a saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So their intentions are good. Oh, we need to care about these people, blah blah, but you're paving a road to hell and chaos, and the people that are going to suffer are always the poor people. Oh,
That is actually such a solid point because it's kind of similar to defunding the police because if you actually defund the police, guess what happens? It's not the rich areas or the wealthier areas or the upper scale hills areas that are getting affected. It's that young family that doesn't live in a not so good area. It's the one that really do
it's
need police for
always
protection.
yeah, it's
It's
always those people that
Yeah,
suffer the
and
brunt of
there
it.
is a lot of like even here we have a lot of injection sites. Do you know what those are? Do you guys have them in
Oh
California?
yeah, Well, not
So
injection sites per se, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, so unfortunately, they don't have injection sites in the suburbs. All the injection sites are, of course, in the downtown core, but
Mhm.
it's not in the nicest parts of even downtown. It's the unfortunate part, right? So you're
Yeah.
absolutely correct because when this influx of, we're not saying they're criminals or anybody, we're just saying who are they, right? Like there's no vetting system, there's no cool. Is John your real name or not your real name? You know, so if we don't have a system where we're getting quality people instead of who are you kind of people because we have no background on them, it can be very unsafe for the areas that require the police, that require safety, because you're not going to see, you know, the border jumpers going to the north. You're going to see them go right to the south, right? Where the unfortunate people might be living or the lower class might be. But I think it's a horrible thing. And I don't know why liberals are just like they're really not agreeing. It's so common sense. Everywhere in the world has a tight border. I don't know why that border is so relaxed. Like, is there really any reason behind that?
I think it's just a lack of common sense. You know,
And
it's
is that
it's like
also, as you said, right, just voters, right? They can just easily get voters. Hey, liberals did this for you, so you got to vote us in again, kind of thing. Is
that's
that
the
also a rumor?
that's the conspiracy theory, you know.
Okay.
But I mean, it could. I mean, I don't see any other reason why Democrats would be so adamant about like, you know,
Yeah. Because I
it
think, you know,
doesn't.
there's a fair system, right? Like if there's a system of immigration, you should follow the system and come through the system. But yeah, I mean, if this was happening in Canada, we would definitely have done something about the border because, you know, even here, everybody who comes to this country comes with solid paperwork and, you know, we know who you are. So it's kind of bewildering to see how in the United States, you know, the land of the free, well, I mean, technically the land of the free really is the statement, but yeah, I think the border definitely needs something done. And not only the border, but like the border is costing billions of dollars a year, but so was the national debt. I know we're sending money overseas. I know the student loan debt is also at a bubble. What are your thoughts on that? What are you hearing out there?
You know, if like let's say you know you have your sister and your father and your mother, you're a family, right? You have your family, and then your father decides to leave your family to go to the neighbor's wife, go with the neighbor, and
Yeah,
and she has two kids, right? And then your father, your biological father, is treating his stepchildren and giving them everything, and they're eating fancy food while your biological children are in rags, you know, eating beans and rice every day.
yeah,
You're looking across the window and you're seeing your biological dad treat his stepchildren like kings and queens, you know? That's what's happening with the American people. Like the government is taking care of everyone else but their own people, you know? And that's why something like America First resonates with so many people because we see billions go over here, billions over there, open border, everybody come in, we'll give you debit cards, we'll give you a free flight to, and meanwhile, there's struggling families, veterans that are homeless, people addicted to drugs, you know? That's the way I see it. You're not taking care of your children, you're taking care of things
well,
that
I
are not
mean,
even.
it's absolutely right because we're in the exact same position. Canada has been sending billions and billions. I mean, at this point, we probably may have hit a trillion, but our national debt as well is increasing due to us sending money overseas. And while their people are living in tents in the downtown core, I can kind of maybe say that Canada and California may have similar policies because
Yeah, no, I think so.
I've seen some pictures of California and we look very similar at this point. So but when you look at the national debt, do you, in your personal opinion, do you actually think that will be paid off, or do you think this is something that is just going to accumulate forever and ever and ever?
I don't even know.
Like, do politicians even talk about the national debt anymore, or do we just
I mean, there's a
hope for the
national debt
best?
counter, and there's billboards with the numbers that
Yeah.
keep. I always see it go up. I never see it, go down. So I don't know. That I don't
Well,
know. I don't think
that's
so.
I mean, when people say national debt, it's like, okay, who do we owe the money to? But I guess
Yeah.
that's for a different conversation. But just a couple of things. So, what do you think about Trump finally going on Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan
Oh yeah.
finally accepted him, and he's like, all right, come on.
I think Joe
What do you
Rogan
think
is
about that?
I think Joe Rogan is soft for waiting for it to be okay, you know, for Trump to be on a podcast. I think he waited. I think he was scared of
Yeah,
the repercussions. I saw a lot of, like I said, I saw the Kamala podcast, I saw the Trump ones, and the difference is just so stark. Where you have Trump, who you can relate to, and seems like a complete opposite of what the media portrays this man to be. And I was one of those in 2016. I was, voted for Hillary. I was one of those. I hate Trump, Trump, bad, racist, neo-Nazi, white supremacist. I was one of those guys.
and what
And
changed your mind?
what changed my mind was during the pandemic, because I saw a lot of things and I started, questioning a lot of the narratives that we were seeing on the TV. I was like, a lot of stuff just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense. One thing that didn't make sense to me was how during the George Floyd riots, the media was telling you to go outside and protest, right? They're telling you go outside, protest,
Yeah.
protest. I understand, terrible what happened to George Floyd, but we were just locked in, our house is told we couldn't go outside for anything, right? And they're telling you to do this, right?
It's
And
like
then
listen
after
to
the
the doctors to stay inside or listen to the media to go outside.
yeah, and they're telling you go outside and protest and get your voice heard or whatever. Everybody's protesting, mass protests, everybody shoulder to shoulder, just yelling, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, the media says, "Oh, no reports of those riots leading to any COVID outbreak," right? So I thought that was a little off, right? But that's
Yeah.
not the defining one. And then Trump starts holding rallies, right? He
Yeah.
starts holding rallies, and he has these rallies in Florida. And then after he has, all of a sudden, Trump rallies are to blame for all these COVID outbreaks that started happening.
It's picking
So
and
that
choosing.
that did not make any sense. And any person that just has a little bit of common sense can question that. How do you not question that? You're like, wait, this riot didn't lead to COVID outbreak, but this one did. That makes no sense to me. And then the whole January 6th thing, which was to me the most laughable uh, attempted coup. Like, how do people even think that this was a coup? Have you seen a real coup? Like, Google South American politics or Central American coups, or Google that so you could know what a real coup looks like. This is a SNL coup.
Especially if you've seen the actual video. Once you've seen the video of, the supposed coup people inside the building, you've seen the
Yeah,
police officers interacting with them in a non-violent way. This was not a coup. Remember, media, right? It's just one could be like, for example, when George Floyd happened, RIP, people were destroying neighborhoods. They were destroying stores and
you,
people's livelihood. And it wasn't like they were destroying Walmarts. They were destroying John's
small
flower
businesses.
shop
Yeah, yeah.
and Mary's, chicken stop,
I
it
have a
was.
friend whose store was completely ransacked.
And that's crazy because if you think about that, isn't that supposedly considered a revolution or some type of coup as well? But I guess not. But
Well, the message that I got from that, the message was like they were telling us like, hey, it's okay to burn your own neighborhoods, burn your own neighborhoods, but as soon
don't
as you
touch
step into
ours.
government buildings, that's a no-no. Don't step into government buildings. Your own neighborhoods, yeah, that's fine. Destroy them, burn your own neighborhood, but the government building, nah, that's where you
And
cross
you
the
know
line.
what's crazy? As we talked about with liberal policies, right? Them destroying their own neighborhoods. Guess what? Now that, unfortunate senior lady who gets her milk from that store every day can't get her milk because it's destroyed, right? So it's like all these policies really do affect the I would say the lower income, lower socioeconomic people, right? Because it's happening to them because anything that is trickles down, and I think that's something hard for colored people to understand because here in Canada we have a lot of colored people who are like, yeah, we're more conservative now, we're less Democrat, or left leaning, and they're happy about that. But for some reason, when I'm checking out these, social media posts, especially, things like Shade Room or whatnot, where it's like more of a colored
No, yeah.
people kind of platform, it's like OMG. It's like, Kamala for president button. It's just, in my opinion, it's like comment propaganda. Like, I personally
Yeah.
don't think, because if you scroll down, you'll start seeing more colored people saying, Kamala's going to lose, Trump is going to win, or I'm voting for Trump. But then if you go up to like the first like 20 or 30, it's just pro Kamala. So, the propaganda isn't going to stop even on social media. And so what do you think about that? Like, what do you think about social media becoming this, I guess, melting pot of brainwashing and propaganda? Because it's always been propaganda, but election time, it gets a little heavier, I would say.
Well, it's funny to me because I've seen one person post a lot recently, and I was like, this is how I know the Democrats are in trouble because Obama has been posting like a lot, and he has been literally campaigning for Kamala Harris because she cannot hold her own.
Yeah, didn't they have Eminem the other day or
Yeah,
yesterday, actually?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I open up my Instagram feed, and it's an Obama post, and it's Obama, not even Kamala, just Obama, because he's the one doing the heavy lifting because Kamala's just so like
Nobody even knows what she stands for.
she
I
doesn't
personally don't.
I, she doesn't offer anything, guys. Like her biggest offer is like I'm not Trump, and I understand people that just no matter what do not like Trump, but if the Democrats lose this election, you can only blame the Democrats because they gave you a lackluster candidate.
100%.
They didn't
And
let you choose; they gave you a lackluster candidate.
I mean, who were the options? You had Biden, who's, not capable, and then you have Kamala Harris, who just kind of just got swept in. Like there was really no, aren't they supposed to have like a Democrat convention to actually choose someone? But she just kind of got swept in.
She's just gonna be like a figurehead for the same people that are in power right now.
So pretty much the
You know,
deep state. So the people who are
yeah,
controlling
like
Biden.
she's
Okay.
just, she no substance, no connection with like, that podcast, All the Smoke. You should go watch it. It's
I'll
very
definitely
interesting.
check it out. I haven't checked it out. It's called
And
All
if
the
they
Smoke.
All the Smoke, it's with two basketball players, Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. I'm a huge basketball fan. I love
Oh,
basketball.
yes. I do know that podcast actually with Steven Jackson. Yes. I've seen
Yeah,
the
and
clips. I'll check it out
there's
though.
there's even a part where Steven Jackson kind of rolls his eyes at her, and they caught it on the reel. But it's crazy to me how they didn't even edit that part. Maybe they didn't catch it at the time. But read the comments if they haven't been erased already. The comments will tell you how people feel about Kamala Harris. And like I said, I love basketball. I saw she was on that particular podcast. I watched it with an open mind. Let me see and it's a disaster. Like,
I mean, I can imagine.
and then you compare it with like the Trump one. And it's like Trump he's such a human being, you
And it's,
know?
it's it's not
Like
even it's not even Trump himself. Like even JD Vance, in my opinion, is a good speaker. Like he was on the Nelk Boys. That was a great
smart,
interview. I'm gonna have that in my description as well. But the Nelk Boys, they interviewed JD Vance. That was a refreshing interview, I would say. It gave me
and
an enlightenment on who he was more.
most people they will not look at that stuff, because in
No,
their heads, oh, Trump is a neo-Nazi, he hates Latinos, he hates black people, he's all about, and
it's
it's
the
like
power of propaganda and media.
take
It
up
really is.
take a second, breathe in. But it's hard for people to accept that they're being lied to. It's hard for people to accept that everything.
To
i know
pop their
for me
balloon.
I know for me, like it was like fuck, am I starting to like Trump right now?
It
That was a big thing for me.
was
Like
like a revelation.
it was like, oh my God, am I have I like no, no, no. Like it took a while, I'm like, no, no, no. He's bad. He hates my people. And then the more I when I watch the one thing that I watch is you when I watch his UN speech, the speech he gave to the UN when he was president, when I
Very
watched the whole
intelligent.
thing, I was like, okay, well, like I like, am I agreeing with the racist bigot orange man? Like it was one of those things. And then I started watching the full thing of of the stuff that he says. And yeah, sometimes he can be a little crazy, but
It comes with the job, I would say. It just comes with
yeah,
the
yeah.
job.
But it was a big realization for me. And me watching these podcasts, I see a more humble guy. I see a more down to earth, more put together. And I love the team that he has around him, which is Tulsi Gabbard and
Yep,
RFK Jr. Like
that's a good
I
team.
love those guys because those guys actually stood up to the Democratic
They've been
Party.
fighting for years. It's not like they just
Yeah,
started.
it's not like they just started, and they've been standing up to the Democratic Party. You
Yep.
know, and when they joined the Trump campaign, I was like, okay, this solidifies who I'm going for
Because I
in
think I
this
think the
election.
biggest point was how come he didn't drain the swamp in his first term. Well, I mean, when you're first time ever a politician, you don't know who's who, you don't know who's got your back and who's new or whatever. He's
Yeah,
got that under wraps now. So the
yeah,
people that he's surrounding himself with are definitely not people that he feels are part of the deep state or whatever deep, agency. But
yeah.
I do like Tulsi Gabbard. I do like RFK as well. Of course, everybody's got their own faults, but they have been really, really good candidates for the past few years. Not even politically, just fighting for our rights, fighting for just being
And,
putting America
and
first, I would say.
and not only that, not towing the party lines. You know, they're not like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm a Democrat, so I'm not gonna say this. No, they were like this, and that. You know,
exactly.
that's what I like them. That's who I thought Ocasio was gonna be, AOC was gonna be, but she ended
No,
up
she went left, crazy
she, was,
left.
she ended up being a young Nancy Pelosi. You know, like
I mean, I wish her all the best. Like she's going to be amazing as she gets older and becomes more in depth in the political world. But no, I thought she was going to be like a gun runner for like not a
yeah,
gun runner, but like a front runner for like,
for the
human
working
rights.
class.
Yeah, the human rights, working class.
And then
But she's selling $80 sweaters now, so she's a little bit of a capitalist. So Kevin, just before we do wrap up, I want to just ask you some out of the box thinking questions. I've been starting this part of my channel, kind of a little segment with people that I interview. So are you up for it?
yeah, let's go.
All right. So if you could create a brand new holiday to celebrate voting in the US, what would it be called and how would people celebrate it? So
To
if you
celebrate
started,
voting,
huh?
you said to celebrate voting.
Yeah. So if you could create a brand new holiday to celebrate voting in the US, what would it be called and how would people celebrate it?
Yeah. I would call it the Boston Tea Party, and people would throw tea in the ocean as a celebration.
I
You know,
love that. I love that. That's awesome. No, because that's actually a good rebellious. Because I mean, they were just fighting for 2% tax. Where are we at now? We're definitely in the double digits.
way beyond that. You know,
So if presidential campaigns were run entirely on social media platforms, which platform do you think would have the biggest influence on the results and why?
it would probably be TikTok. So it'd be the Chinese.
TikTok.
It would dictate our elections. You know,
So they'll have
TikTok
that
is so
foreign
popular.
interference.
Yeah, so we'd be China in extension.
So just to kind of tangent on that, what do you think about China right now? Because they've been kind of quiet, I would say. Like they're just kind of behind the scenes, kind of doing their own thing. But what do you think?
Ah man, I think they're definitely dangerous because they have the biggest weapon of all, which is TikTok, that just brainwashes everyone, you know.
Yep.
And they have technology, they have the numbers, you know, they're an economic juggernaut. So they're definitely, like, people say Russia, 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 Putin, 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 but it's like they can't even deal with little Ukraine, and you're telling me that they're gonna take over Europe?
China is definitely a superpower. It really
Yeah,
is. Like, even though they are trying to take over Taiwan, Taiwan's just so heavily guarded by the states that
yeah.
it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for them. But I think it's something that's going to be inevitable because those semiconductors are like diamonds these days.
Oh yeah.
Um, all right. So the last question is, if you could cast a vote for any historical figure to run for president today, who would it be and why?
Kobe Bryant, because I'm just a big Laker fan, and
Nice.
I think he was a smart dude, you know,
Discipline, Black Mamba,
disciplined.
President
Yeah.
Mamba. That has a
No,
ring to it.
no BS guy, you know, tell you
Yep.
straight how it is, you know.
Wake up early in the morning, be the last
Yep.
one to leave the gym.
Yep.
That's actually a really good one. Mad respect on that one. All right, Kevin. So thank you for the wisdom and knowledge that you dropped in this
Thank you, man.
video.
It's
And
always
this is
fun.
Oh, 100%. And this is not the only time you're going to be on this channel. So we're just going to wrap it up. And it's been an honor, talk about United States, the elections, especially California, and things that hopefully will happen in the future. And we will have many more of these conversations and discussions. Can you give us an update with what's going on with yourself and what's going on with any shows coming up? I know you just have a newborn right now, so I'm sure you're really, really busy, but anything coming up?
Right now, I am taking a break from stand-up comedy because of my child, and I want to help my wife as much as I can. So right now, I'm just on social media. So if you guys follow me, I have a good following. Nice little following that's building up. I make political memes that
And they're
hopefully make
actually
you laugh.
so awesome. I love the
Thank
chicken
you.
nugget one that you did the other day.
Right.
That was actually a
Thank you.
good one.
Appreciate it. So yeah, right now I'm just on social media, but I do hope to get back into stand-up comedy within the next 2 or 3 months once my baby is sleeping at least 6 hours a night.
Nope.
So
Hey, you know what? Being a father is the toughest job in the world, especially with being a mother as well. So I am so, so happy. Congratulations on the newborn.
thank you.
So Kevin, I will have all of Kevin's information in the description box, so please check him out. So Kevin, definitely until another time, maybe sometime before the 2025 year, just to see how, things are going with the United States and whatnot. So Kevin, thank you so much. And my
Thank you.
viewers, please check him out. Till next time,
Appreciate it.
stay ranting.